La Méditerranée était dominée par la flotte britannique depuis la victoire du Cap Matapan, en mars 1941. Comment l'Africa Corse put-elle remporter des victoires, jusqu'en juillet 1942? L'explication est que durant la période de janvier à juin 1942, le transport maritime des forces de l'Axe en Méditerranée a été favorisé par la supériorité allemande dans l'air à Malte et en Afrique ainsi que dans le domaine invisible du spectre fréquentiel. Le transport de troupes et des provisions de l'Axe a fonctionné sans à-coups et avec peu de pertes. Les brouilleurs des stations au sol brouillent les radars métriques anglais, assurent la protection sur les côtes que les forces de l'Axe ont parcourues. Au milieu de la Méditerranée, des avions allemands patrouillent au-dessus des convois maritimes et couvrent les navires de l'Axe de leur brouillage. Les Anglais ne détectent plus rien. Des provisions ont été avancées pour permettre à l'armée allemande et italienne de lancer une offensive avec l'objectif d'avancer vers les frontières de l'Égypte en mai-juin 1942.
Malta, which has brought down 1,000 Axis planes in 3,000 raids, is a thorn in the Axis flesh.
En avril 1942, les 4 premiers Beaufighter équipés de radars métriques, Airborne Interception Mark IV, fréquence 195 MHz, arrivent sur Malte. Dès leur arrivée, ils abattent de nombreux avions ennemis venus bombarder Malte. En mai 1942, un escadron équipé de radars centimétriques arrive en Égypte. Le 26 mai 1942, Rommel déclenche l'opération Thésée, il prend Tobrouk mais les troupes de l'Axe vont rencontrer les forces françaises libres à Bir Hakeim. Mais c'est de maintenant une petite île assiégée jour et nuit, de ses habitants affamés et terrés dans les abris, que le sort de la guerre va se jouer. En ce mois de juin 1942, les Allemands installent de puissants brouilleurs pour neutraliser les radars de l'île. Ce système est progressivement opérationnel et brouille la fréquence du radar aéroporté anglais embarqué à bord des Beaufighter du Squadron 89. À partir du 31 juillet et pendant 14 jours, les Beaufighter équipés de radars métriques ne remportent aucune victoire. En juillet 1942, les divisions de Rommel sont arrêtées devant El Alamein. En août 1942, les Anglais regroupèrent leurs forces aéronavales en vue de l'opération Pedestal dans un énorme convoi. Ravitailler Malte qui tenait la clé de la victoire nécessite tous les moyens. Ils ont préparé pour l'occasion une arme ultra secrète.
Helped with their specialized knowledge to train service personnel on squadrons in the operational and maintenance problems involved, and proved an essential link in the introduction of new airborne equipment into the service. Another type of scan was helical, with which was developed a new type of display showing range, bearing and elevation simultaneously. Test flights with this equipment were made in February 1941. When further developed, the equipment became known as AI Mk5, of which 100 were produced and fitted in Beaufighters, the first AI Mk5 squadron being operational in March 1942.
Of the target. And obviously our beam would not be much use if it always pointed in...
Le radar centimétrique se vit alors jouer un rôle essentiel dans le cours des batailles à partir d'août 1942. Premier champ de bataille du nouveau radar, Malte qui était l'enjeu le plus stratégique dans la défense du canal de Suez. Cette île transformée en un immense porte-avions, point central de la défense en Méditerranée, était bientôt à court de carburant. Le convoi Pedestal regroupant 13 navires marchands escortés par 34 navires de guerre, dont 4 porte-avions lui fut dépêché sur ordre de Churchill. un pétrolier rapide, de fort tonnage aux défenses renforcées, était la clé du succès de la mission. Dans ce convoi, le plus important de la guerre, ce pétrolier, l'USS Ohio, était amené à jouer un rôle héroïque et historique. Durant la bataille, cette cible privilégiée a été abandonnée 2 fois, mais à chaque fois des volontaires sont remontés à son bord.
Malta, which has brought down 1,000 Axis planes in 3,000 raids, is a thorn in the Axis flesh. We saw Malta's value as a North African campaign developed in late 1942. Rommel in the desert, defeated and retreating, dependent for his life on supplies from Italy. While his tanks were burning and his men dying under the desert sun, he turned to Italy for reinforcements and supplies. Malta was our only base from which really effective offensive action could be taken against the enemy supply lanes. Malta, 1,000 miles away from Alexandria and Gibraltar, but only a few minutes flying time from the enemy aerodromes to north and south. It was essential to hold Malta at any price. I was one of those privileged to sail with the now famous convoy of August 1942. Looking back, it's fascinating to see how that action fits in with the great campaign that came later and is developing still. When we learned we were going to Malta, everyone felt it a privilege to be going to her aid. As our convoy assembled, everyone knew we were sailing on an action equivalent to an offensive by several armored divisions in land warfare. Most significant of the escort vessels for this convoy were the 4 large aircraft carriers. Vice Admiral Seifert was in command. His flagship was the battleship Nelson, and with her was the battleship Rodney. The escort for the final dash to Malta was to consist of cruisers and destroyers under the command of Rear Admiral Burrow. One Sunday night, the fleet slipped through the Straits of Gibraltar under cover of darkness. All day Monday, Monday night, Tuesday forenoon, all was quiet. We waited. On Tuesday afternoon, suddenly the peace was shattered by a series of explosions. Great columns of water were thrown up as destroyers dropped depth charges. But the U-boat attack had been successful. The Eagle, an old but vitally important aircraft carrier, was sunk. When later in the afternoon we received a report of enemy aircraft approaching, there was a general sigh of relief at the prospect of getting to grips and avenging her. Those Fleet Air-armed pilots knew their shipborne aircraft would have a tough proposition in competing against the shore-based bombers, but somehow they achieved amazing results. Here it comes. Through it all, through the colossal din, the great mushrooms of water as the bombs dropped, and the blinding flashes of our guns, through all that and many other things, we were left with one main impression. Those merchantmen in the middle, going steadily on and on, at times completely hidden by near misses, but miraculously reappearing through the columns of spray, and always doggedly and stubbornly going on and on. The attack continued till darkness. The flashes from our guns and tracer bullets lit the night sky. Now Wednesday. It was obvious that the enemy would throw in everything he'd got, as we would be within easy range of his aerodromes. Fleet air-arm fighters were off at the crack of dawn. Throughout the day, they were almost continuously in the air, as formation after formation came into attack. I won't attempt to describe that day in detail, because one attack is so much like another. Gigantic pall of smoke rising up into the sky from a merchant vessel that had been hit. The patches of flames where aircraft had crashed. As dusk fell, a terrific Stuka attack developed. A dive-bombing raid obviously carried out by picked pilots. When darkness closed down and gave us a somewhat modified relief, there was a disconcerting thought that the same darkness would be providing cover for the E-boats and U-boats whom we knew would be lurking near the Sicilian Narrows, which we had to pass before daylight. The convoy suffered, and so did the E-boats. It was an ugly, uncomfortable night, and I must confess to a sigh of relief as the dawn broke. Thursday now. The relief was short-lived. Almost with the first streaks of Thursday's light, back came the dive bombers and torpedo droppers in a final desperate effort to get the convoy on its last lap. But the situation had changed now. We were within range of the fighters from Malta. At first, the fighter protection from the island was limited by distance. But as we got nearer home, the enemy began to feel more and more the effect of the Spitfires. The convoy had got through.
Le 14 août, les pertes du convoi sont terribles. Un porte-avions a été coulé, un autre est fortement endommagé, 2 croiseurs coulés et 2 autres endommagés. seuls 3 navires marchands sur 13 avaient atteint la Valette le 13 août. Dans la nuit 14 août au 15 août 1942, le pétrolier USS Ohio est stoppé et menace de couler, touché à de nombreuses reprises par les multiples attaques de l'aviation de l'Axe. Mais les réserves de carburant sur l'île sont pratiquement épuisées. Si le pétrolier ne rejoint pas l'île, Malte tombe, Suez tombe et c'est tout le Moyen-Orient, jusqu'au Caucase qui s'ouvre aux forces de Rommel. 2 destroyers viennent flanquer le pétrolier à ses 2 bords, ce qui l'empêche de couler. Un 3e vient à la rescousse, pour avancer lentement, mais la nuit s'annonce très menaçante. Les radars anglais, notamment les Mk5 des Were, ne détectent plus rien depuis 15 jours. Le brouillage allemand aveugle les radars anglais. Sans la protection de la chasse de nuit, tout semble perdu. Malte, le canal de Suez, est sous la menace des troupes germano-italiennes, qui n'attendent plus que le ravitaillement pour l'action décisive.
She was hit 6 times, sir. After she had been abandoned, parties of volunteers got back on board, twice. But each time she was hit again. She was still afloat the last time we saw her, but on fire aft. I should like to say, sir, that everyone realized the importance of getting her in. They did their best.
It's all right, Whittaker, we know that.
What are you going to do now, sir?
Well, that's our headache, my boy. You go and get some rest.
Thank you, sir.
Mais les Anglais ont prévu une arme ultra secrète, une arme totalement invisible, aux yeux des systèmes métriques allemands. Le 7 août 1942, les premiers Were équipés de nouveaux radars centimétriques et Mark 7 étaient arrivés à Malte. D'autres escadrons équipés de radars centimétriques air surface arrivèrent les jours suivants. Ils sont insensibles au brouillage allemand et capables de détecter les convois de l'Axe. Mais il leur faut de l'essence. Dans cette nuit du 14 au 15 août, 15 redoutables avions torpilleurs italiens décollent de Sicile pour achever le pétrolier.
Hero of Dunkirk and the Battle of Britain, Air Vice Marshal Sir Keith Park is having a fatherly chat with his pilots before they set out to sweep the skies of intruding invaders.
Hello, Wavy Blue One. Gondar here. There are some little jobs over Comiso.
Des Were décollent de l'aéroport de Malte et volent vers la Sicile. Ils ont pour mission d'intercepter les bombardiers de l'Axe et ainsi protéger le convoi. Les 2 pilotes, l'anglais Neville Reeves et le canadien Robert Fumerton, interceptent l'escadrille italienne grâce à leur radar.
Night and day, giving all, daring all, enduring all, to the end, the victorious end. Unconquered and unconquerable, the valiant men and airmen of this island fortress are repaying bygone scores. Malta strikes back.
Frank, your tanker's coming in. They've managed to put out the fire to stop her sinking. She's lashed to a destroyer.
Thank God for the Navy.
Sound the alert. But she's not a ship of war, sir.
Isn't she?
Sound the alert. Bugler, sound the alert.
Although it seems invidious to draw attention to any one of so gallant a party, I must do so, for she was carrying the most important and dangerous cargo of all, oil. Her name was Ohio. Not only was she hit by a torpedo, but constantly bombed throughout. While destroyers stood by her, the crew repeatedly got the flames under control. If ever there was an example of dogged perseverance against all odds, this was it. Here you see the British crew of this American-built oil tanker ashore in Malta after their ordeal. They will be remembered by everybody in Malta for what they did. They will go down in Britain's sea history as heroes. And a little later, home in Britain again, Captain Mason of the Ohio goes to Buckingham Palace to be decorated. Now we can count the loss in the game. On this convoy, our planes and guns certainly destroyed 66 enemy planes and sank 2 U-boats. 2 Italian cruisers were hit by torpedoes, 1 badly damaged. But our own losses were heavy. We lost the aircraft carrier Eagle and the cruiser Manchester, in addition to smaller escort craft and merchant vessels. But the precious supplies were got through. Malta is no longer a fortress on the defensive, but a springboard for the offensive in Europe. Malta is going over to the attack.
Is the 8th Army. If the Germans manage to advance now, Rommel will be able to pierce our main defense line before the 8th Army's had time to consolidate. In other words, he'll grab the initiative before they're ready to hit back. Right. Our job's simple. To slow down and stop Rommel by cutting off his supplies. That's why you gentlemen with the Wellingtons and Beauforts have been sent to us from the Middle East. If his convoys come down this way, they'll run into the Middle East Air Force and the fleet, so they'll almost certainly come straight down here. Well, as you can see, Malta is an ideal position as a base for attack. We've begun well. 2 ships sunk out of a convoy of 4, but that is only a beginning. From now until the Africa Corps is bogged down, you're going to keep at it day and night. This is an all-out offensive operation. The restrictions on the use of petrol and ammunition are off, and so is the ban on talking to base from the air. These convoys have got to be found, and if you run into trouble with enemy fighters who are talking to base in finding them, then you'll just have to run into it and get out of it the best way you can. Now, a lot of you have been used to taking it. We're now going to dish it out. We're going to crack Rommel on the nose, even if we bark our knuckles a bit.
Then the British developed a cavity magnetron which generated shortwave electronic beams which made centimetric radar possible. This equipment was compact enough to be installed in an airplane. Without it, my squadron would not have had the spectacular success in intercepting enemy convoys. The destruction of these convoys was a vital factor in the eventual defeat of Rommel's Africa. Air Marshal Tedder left us in no doubt of the importance of our role in stopping enemy supply convoys reaching Rommel. Taking us thus into the leader's confidence did a great deal to lift morale. Montgomery had similarly briefed all army units. In the 3 weeks leading up to the Battle of El Alamein, not one German supply ship got through our Mediterranean air blockade. Squadron leader Ross Charles says,
Les pilotes des squadrons 248 et 252 purent alors utiliser leurs bombardiers équipés des nouveaux radars centimétriques. Opérant de Malte, ces avions avaient un champ de vision beaucoup plus étendu et n'étaient plus brouillés par les électroniciens allemands. Dès le 17 août, les bombardiers alliés équipés de nouveaux radars centimétriques furent employés dans le bombardement contre des convois de l'Axe. Le succès anglais sur l'approvisionnement des Allemands fut presque total. Les pertes des convois en matériel de l'Axe étaient si lourdes qu'il était à peine possible d'obtenir quelques provisions de l'Allemagne. Les itinéraires maritimes vers Tripoli et Benghazi ont été complètement coupés. Le transport aérien de Crète jouait le rôle principal, mais tout à fait naturellement, le volume était de loin trop petit. En août 1942, alors que les Alliés se renforcent considérablement, l'Axe voit son approvisionnement stoppé net. La logistique décidera du combat entre les impétueux soldats des deux armées. À partir du 1er septembre 1942, les magnétrons des beaux fighters furent modifiés pour être opérationnels au-dessus des 15 000 mètres hauteur limite de la DCA. Les avions de l'Axe durent descendre sous ce plafond pour éviter l'interception, mais se heurtèrent au feu nourri des canons anglais. Pendant que les bombardiers de l'Axe échouaient dans leur tentative d'isoler Malte, les avions britanniques, sans cesse plus nombreux, coupèrent l'Afrique corse de ses bases arrières, notamment en coulant les pétroliers.